Hello guys, welcome to our channel the DevOps Bucket. So in this channel we are going to discuss everything about the DevOps and cloud practices and mostly the real-time use cases. So myself Sai and I am working as cloud engineer at Amazon, and today I am going to discuss about the EKS. Okay, like this is the first video of our channel to discuss about the EKS, and I have lot more to discuss about the EKS because it's a very deep use cases it having, and we also integrating many tools with the EKS to make the end deployment of your application properly. And also we are going to see a lot of real-time errors, how we can solve it and everything in the further videos. So I would request you to subscribe this channel and to learn more along with us. Okay, so first of all, the Kubernetes, I think you know, might aware of Kubernetes, and we will also start the series of Kubernetes and everything in the later sessions. But I am more interested to start with PKS because it's a cloud provided Kubernetes platform which can be able to help you to control only the data plane from your side and the master plane and master components from the AWS side. Okay, but it's also similar to the AKS first in the Kubernetes and and the Kubernetes part in the Azure and GKE like the Google Cloud Kubernetes. But the concept would be the similar, but there are some property differences which we could see in the later videos. So this is the first video of our channel. So please support us and let's study with us to gain more practice. So our motto is practice more makes DevOps engineer perfect. So let's practice more and let's more talk about it. So the Kubernetes has two components. You might know everything that Kubernetes has two components: a control plane, data plane. The control plane is basically the master component, which is having scheduler, API server, etcd cluster, and everything will be there in the control plane, which will be responsible for the communication between the our resources to the Kubernetes. And also the data plane. Data plane means the data where you have hosted, like it can be in your resources, deployments, pods, everything which are running inside this data plane. Data plane or nothing but the nodes that you have created. Like the nodes, like it can be a EC2 node or it can be your own on-premise node. Anything that you connected to your cluster is the data plane. Okay, so EKS, what comes the difference from EKS with the kubeadm or normal cluster? So in EKS cluster, the control plane is purely managed by AWS. Okay, you don't need to control any of the things. So internal architecture of the EKS is not visible to everyone outside the world. So I will give you a brief on this for 1 minute. So the control plane components will be same as you see for the Kubernetes itself, but the AWS will make it created on their own service account and on their service account, like, and also it places some load balancers to serve the traffic without any downtime, and also they uses some VPC endpoints along with it to connect to securely with your cluster from your account to the AWS service account where the control plane has been configured. Okay, so that is the EKS control plane management, which is not in our scope because we are the users of it. So we are not in our scope, but we mostly responsible for the data plane which we create. And EKS also launched some auto mode feature, which will recently launched it. You, I think you have seen it. Otherwise, the auto mode is like you don't need to manage the data plane as well. It will manage data plane on behalf of you. It will manage the control plane, data plane both. So you can only concentrate about the application and the how deployment process is going on, etc., etc., not related to any nodes and everything. Okay, so the data plane means the nodes. Okay, so what the steps we will follow, the step by step procedure. I will also share this in the description. You can also follow the same steps, but we are creating it a simple way by using the second option of the data plane that I told, like using managed node group from AWS. So managed node group is basically the node set of nodes that AWS will provide you, and it auto scale based upon the policies you set. Normally it will create the minimum number of nodes based upon your configuration. We will see in the AWS console and we can clearly discuss about it, and after that we will connect to the cluster and we will deploy one sample application or something to check how the how it is working. Also, there are a lot of configurations that need to be deployed on this particular EKS to make it work for load balancers, for EFS storage, for S3 storage, for secret manager. There are a lot of things that we'll use in a very real time, and I see a lot of things like this in the organization. So I am going to share everything in this so that we can learn, we can practice both together. Okay, let's go into the AWS console and do all these steps that mentioned here and to create the cluster and everything.
Is H for EKS here is the cluster. If we go to EKS, it's there, and we need to click on create cluster. And there will be two modes like EKS auto mode that I told you previously, that new feature that has been added, which maintains the both data plane and control plane. This is the features of it, and we are now switching off, and we are going with the manual now. And we need to provide the cluster name here. This is the first step that we are going to create, that creating the cluster. Okay, I named it as EKS cluster, and the cluster IAM role will be there. This is used to communicate the other AWS resources by the cluster on behalf of yourself. Okay, on behalf of you. So this is the document to create an EKS IAM role. So this is how you need to create an IAM role. Okay, this is the trust relationship that you need to provide here, and there is a one role called EKS cluster role. You need to attach that role to this particular permission to this particular role. If you see, this is the last command which is adding this Amazon EKS cluster role policy to this, which will contain all EC2 and load balancer related information which are necessary by the cluster to communicate with. Okay, so I have already created with it, and I will show you in a minute. And first let us select this from the drop down. Yeah, I have selected this EKS role, and then this is the version of Kubernetes. Actually, there are a lot of versions, and here you can see the standard support and end of the and the extended support. So the support will be like standard support is the newer versions, and if the support has been ended, and the AWS will automatically upgrade it to the standard support, and if it is in extended support for some time, it will be more costlier for your cluster. So I need to select the standard now, and then the cluster access entries. So we will see this later, but it is like which user want to access your cluster. You need to add those details in this access cluster access. So there are two types. One is EKS API, and EKS API and config map will be there. I am just choosing EKS API so that I can provide those usernames from the UI itself, not going into the config map of within the cluster. Okay, and next we will provide provide one tag. We can provide any tag, like I will provide env tag. So yeah, I will provide env here, and let's say dev. Yes, and we will create this cluster. And after that, we need to provide a networking configurations on which VPC you want to create the cluster, and select the subnets. And if and the EKS will create one security group for you, which will allow itself traffic to the cluster security group. And we will check this in later videos, and no additional security groups required for now. And you can also specify a IPv4 service range, which the pods will be created within this range only. Otherwise, it will take as default. And this is a cluster endpoint access, which will be like public and private. Public is like accessing within the outside of the VPC as well, and private is within the VPC only. You can able to access the cluster. I am using the both public and private. Okay, I hope you understand these points, and click on next. And then the EKS will also provides an observability by default. So there are particular metrics which goes to the Prometheus, managed Prometheus of the AWS, and also you can enable the control plane logging, which you can see in the CloudWatch. I'm enabling all logging patterns, and these are the add-ons. There are networking add-ons and core DNS for service discovery, and networking plugin like Flallen and Calico will be there, right? Here it will be there, VPC CNA. So those mandatory add-ons will be there, like kubeproxy, core DNS, and node monitoring agent, everything. We will see these in the in the next videos as well. And the important add-ons will be by default selected, like kubeproxy is an important one. VPCNA is a network plugin, as I told you, which connect between the nodes and the cluster, and to start the overlay network. And then this is the overview page, what options that we have selected here, and you can select the create at the last. So actually the cluster creation will take 2 to 3 minutes of time. Okay, for the entire creation of the cluster, then only we can able to create the compute node group. Okay, as I said previously, I am creating the node group, compute manage a node group only, which will provide the configuration of a desired number of instances that it will create and attach to the cluster automatically. You can also attach the policies to it. Okay, And we can also create the Fargate profile as well. Fargate means the AWS will manage the instances on its own. You don't need to provision any of the instance and choosing any of the instance types. AWS will maintain on behalf of you. Okay, that is the in the compute section. And also there are Carpenter, cluster autoscaler. There are a lot of things we will discuss in upcoming videos. And for now, I am going with the config. I am going with the default manage node group. So this is the cluster IAM role that we have selected. I will show you the IAM of this, and this is the cluster IAM, and you can click this view IAM. You can see the permissions that I showed you previously, and EKS auto mode we disabled, and everything is same. And here in the resource section, you can able to see the pods and deployments which are running from here itself, not logging into the cluster itself. You can also see from here directly what are the workload pods, cluster, service networking, everything. See, whenever you are going to compute, even the cluster is not created at all. That's why it is showing it. You can't able to create the node group until the cluster is in active state. If you create a node group, it will be here, and the nodes joined here will show in the nodes section. This is the networking. This is service cider which come by default. If you change this cider to your own, the pods will be there. Pods will be comes under this network, and the cluster security group will be created, and you see the public IP there. Yeah, let's wait for the add-ons, and let's to create and access. I showed you like EKS API. It is see the by default it adds the username on through which the cluster has been created. My user is admin user, so it had added it by default. Okay. See, this is the cluster role policy that in the IAM of cluster EKS IAM role. So this is the policy that required, so which contains the EC2 related and auto scaling groups and the load balancer related info, row permissions. Everything will be there for this role, which will be helpful to communicate with these services on behalf of you whenever it required to communicate to create those. Okay. See, now the cluster is in active state, and we will go to compute and click on the create node group to create the nodes. Yeah, you can click on the add node group here. This is the one way to create the nodes. Okay, and there are a lot of ways, we can discuss more in later, and just provides one name of the node group. And node will also one node IAM role, okay, which will be helpful for the nodes or EC2 instances to communicate with the services on behalf of you. The EKS cluster IAM role is the cluster's permissions to access the AWS resources. Now it's an EC2 instance role which will communicate with the other resources. You can create this by clicking on this, and I will provide the document in the description as well. Okay, and here you can also use launch template for creating the instances, and otherwise it will actually AWS will provide some optimized AMIs which are tested in real time and it is working, and then only they will provide it. You can also use by default these things. These are the lot of available options for you. I am using the optimized AMI, and there are spot as well as on demand, and you can select the type of instance. I have selected the T3 medium. Okay, and this is the disk size that you can provide, and this is the configuration I told you. This is the desired size, minimum and maximum. So desired size is the size that it maintains always. The 2 is the number that I am providing, and this is the node update configuration when the nodes are being updated to the new version. How many nodes should be present while updating? Like it is like maximum surge and maximum availability options in the deployment. Okay, node auto repair feature is also there. If the node is happening, any issues is happening for the node, when you click this, it will automatically create a new node. Then you can select the subnets, same subnets as this, and you can also connect to these nodes by enabling this option by providing the security group and also the SSH key pair to directly SSH into the nodes that it created. Okay, so these are the options from the node group itself, and you can scroll to view all these configurations that we selected and just click on create. It will also take time. Let's just keep one in mind. If it will do in 1 or 2 minutes, if it is taking more time, that means it is going to fail. Okay, that's the thing that you need to remember. Okay. So see, this is the role. So it will create one auto scaling group. You see, this auto scaling group is in pending state. So once the auto scaling group is up and running, then the instances will be created and will join in the cluster with the permission that we selected, that we added as the node group role. Okay. Yeah. Yes, this is in the creating state. Also, if you go to the IAM node group role, so this is the trust relationship. It's an EC2 trust relationship because it is only for the EC2 instances, assume role permission, and you can also see the what are the permissions required. There are actually three mandatory permissions are required. Okay, one is EC2 container registry one, and another two important is EKS CNI policy, and third one is EKS worker node role. These three policies are very much required to join the node to the cluster. If it is not joining, you need to check this point as well. This is the document that you can check for the node IAM role. So we have created the node group. So now the node group is being loaded. Let's wait for a minute. When you see the nodes, it will see you can see the not ready state. Okay, why these are in not ready state? Let's verify. So when we go to the cluster back, it will show you the node health status here, why the node is not healthy. Okay, you can click on this, and if you scroll down, you can see one error like container runtime network not ready, network ready false. That means there is one networking plugin for every Kubernetes cluster which will help to connect the nodes. Let's say like to enable the communication between the nodes, the networking configuration should be there. Like you can say the Calico or Flannel or any other open source items that they're available for Kubernetes clusters to make the implement the overlay network for connectivity between the nodes, right? So like that in the AWS, they provide the default one called VPC CNI, which will basically, it is like VPC CNI is like an add-on which we will install add-on from cluster or from the CLI. So it will download or it will deploy as a daemon set in the cluster itself directly. If you see, the VPC CNI is enable pod networking within the clusters. It is in the creating state. Once it got completed, then you will be able to see it in the active state. Then the networking plugin should be in the ready and all pods are deployed properly, and then the nodes will be come into ready state. Any other networking plugins like Calico, Flannel, you can feel free to uninstall this and you can install that directly. That's not a problem. You can select here and you can remove it. That's it. Okay. And if you refresh this, let us wait for a minute to install all of these add-ons. Then we can check whether it is working or not. Okay. And also one more thing I would like to share you, like these are the workloads that we can see here. I showed you previously, right? So now the workloads have been created. If you see, this is the AWS node pod is the VPC CNI, which is created a few seconds ago. These are the core DNS add-ons, which are for the DNS related things like for service discovery and etc. And these are node monitoring agents. This is pod identity agent, and this is the kube proxy. Okay, these are the installed as in pods. Like if you see deployments, see these two are the deployments, and if you see the daemon sets, AWS node will be in the daemon set as I mentioned. Like this is 2 in ready state. Okay, then the add-on will be in the successful state. Let us refresh this page and check again. If you refresh, and those should be come in the active state. You can see the VPC CNI add-on is in the active state. Now the cluster see the node health issues are gone here, and if you see the resources in the compute part, see these two nodes are in the ready state. Okay, this is how we will install and deploy the EKS cluster. So now we will take a quick look on how to access this cluster. Okay, we can able to log in into the cluster. Okay, first of all, I want you to know the command, like I think you have already configured AWS CLI, right? So AWS CLI is like to connect to the AWS resources from your CLI, right? AWS configure, and you can click and enter. Then it will ask for access key and secret key. You can provide them to access the CLI. Okay, and also the AWS CLI, after once you install AWS CLI, it requires the kubectl to access your cluster, right? Kubectl. If the kubectl is not available, see the kubectl is not available here. So if you want the kubectl, you will directly go and download the kubectl for the thing. Now we have the kubectl installed. Now we will connect to the cluster first. Okay, so for connecting the cluster, we will CLI using AWS EKS, and if you want to see, you can use a help command to find the what are the AWS CLI things. So you can read these things to know more about the AWS CLI EKS options. But for now, I am using AWS EKS to connect to the cluster. AWS EKS update -kube-config kube-config -name cluster name EKS cluster. Okay, and -region. And if you have a particular profile established for login credentials you can use. See, add a new context to the EKS cluster in this kube config. So it is automatically, this command will do an entry in your kube config file for this particular user and the particular cluster. Okay. If you want to connect to the cluster, let us connect to this kube. Let's to get pods here. So if you see if there is any issue or it will work. See, it's an issue because what the issue, you can clearly read it. The server has asked for the client to provide the credentials. So why this error came? We have already seen one error, which is about the networking plugin. Whenever you see the nodes are not ready, first thing you need to check is the network plugin is available or not. Okay. And the second error is generally usually you get is like this. The server has asked client to provide a credentials. From which user I am accessing the cluster. With this command, I can able to check on which user or role that I currently logged in within this. When we get this type of issues, we need to check two things. One is like on which user you have logged in as within the CLI. That's the one thing. And check the cluster is created with which user. Okay, let us confirm that one as well. My CLI is logged in with my user Sai, and now I will check on which user the cluster has been created. To check this, we can go to access. Okay, access, and if you see the access entry, there is one user that has been added. Okay, this is the one. This is the node policy which will automatically will be added by the EKS only to communicate with the nodes directly. Okay, so that's why you see the group name is system nodes permissions. And also it is a standard role which is coming from the EKS itself, EKS cluster insights, to check the what are the insights of the cluster. And this is the our user which have created the cluster. So it is a root user, but I am accessing with my own user, so which is not in the access entry. So whenever you got this error that the client requires an authentication to do, then you need to check with which user the cluster is created and with which user you are accessing the cluster. That means you need to access the cluster only with the user you created with. Otherwise, you need to add that particular user in this access entry. So if you if to do this, you can create an access entry, and you can select what the user that you are trying to access the cluster, and you can put the standard itself. And if you go to next, and in the policy name, you have lot of policies which will enable the RBAC on this particular Kubernetes resources, like resource based authorization. Okay, if you see, I want to add admin policy. So EKS cluster admin policy is there. There are two scopes, which is the cluster scope and namespace. I don't want a particular namespace scope. I want entire cluster scope admin access for me. So for my user, so click on add policy here. Once you selected this policy, it should come like this, and next, click on next. And once we review these details and click on next, and it is created. Okay, it is created. Let us try again. Now let us try again to access it. I will show you my my Visual Studio Code now. Okay, so let us try it now. If you added the user there, it will directly communicate with it. See, no resource found in the Kubernetes default namespace. That means it has been connected. If you see the get nodes command, you are able to see the nodes. I hope you like this video and you understand these things, and let us go in deep into the EKS cluster configurations one by one in the upcoming videos. If you want me to make the videos from very scratch, like what is DevOps and how to do some setups and everything, you can feel free to mention in the comments. Feel free to share these videos, and if you're watching for the first time, please subscribe our channel.